Hey there, Benjamin Harvey here, Australia's only two-time BRW award-winning coach. And today I wanted to talk to you about the M word. The M word. Now you may be curious as to think, what is the M word? But here's the thing. Having now trained well over 1,000 people to become internationally certified coaches, I know that something happens when you first go out into the marketplace and start to change people's lives, start to make a difference in the world. And that is, people out there struggle to charge money. They often think to themselves, how can I charge money for services like these? How can I charge money for these gifts I have? How can I charge money for helping people heal and transform their life? How can I charge money from helping people get clarity and get direction of where they want to go in life, helping them find their purpose and their mission? How can I charge money for helping people improve their relationships? How can I charge money for helping people feel happier? I mean, how could I charge money? Now, this may not be something that affects you, but I can tell you from first-hand experience that it affects tens of thousands of difference makers around the world all of the time. And the fact is, I know this because when I first got started over 11 and a half years ago, I didn't know how to charge money. I know it may just sound foreign to you. I get it. But here's the thing, a lot of people struggle with this concept, and I definitely was one of them. See, what I was doing was I was just giving free coaching sessions left, right, and center. Anyone at all that wanted help in any way, shape, or form, I would give up my time for that person, and I would help them as much as possible. But I just didn't know how am I meant to charge money. And I had a whole range of things going on inside myself. I mean, was it confidence issues? Was it self-belief issues? Was it believing that I had this gift that I wasn't meant to charge for? Was it because it had a slight spiritual element to it that I really did struggle? I mean, how was I meant to charge money? Now, there is a healing art form out there known as Reiki. And Reiki has been around really since the beginning of time. The teachings of it were lost for a little bit and rediscovered by a gentleman called Dr Usui. And Reiki is a hands-on, hands-off or distant form of energetic healing. Now, I was actually fortunate enough to be trained up to master level in two different strains of Reiki, Tibetan Reiki and Usui Reiki. So I hold my masters in both forms of Reiki healing. Now, during that time, I read about the history of Dr. Usui, and inside those teachings, I learned something quite fascinating. See, Dr. Usui used to travel from village to village in Japan, doing energy healings on the people in that village. And what he found was that when he did these energy healings on people, they transformed completely. And at the end of the session, they would swear to him that the healing had healed the illness or the issue that they were facing. And Dr. Usui would continue on his way traveling from village to village. He would eventually make his way back to that village 6 to 12 months later. And unfortunately, to his surprise, he realized that most of the things that he had worked on had come back. They had not actually been permanently removed. As in, most of the stuff he'd been working on was not actually fixed at all. It was only a temporary fix. And he couldn't work out why this was. So what he decided to do was change something about the way he delivered his service. Because Dr. Usui wasn't charging. Because he believed and he felt that the energy of Reiki was being passed through him into another human being. How could he possibly charge for such a service? He realized, though, that something had to change because people weren't changing. They weren't staying changed. They weren't changing for good. So he decided this. He decided to change the rules of his session. And what he decided to do was make it that if you wanted a healing session from Dr. Usui, you had to provide an offering at the session. And the offering could be anything at all. It could be a handwritten card. It could be a gift of food. It could be a gift of services. It could be a gift of smiles. It could be gratitude, anything at all. But there had to be some form of exchange that took place. And so the villagers were told in advance that when Dr. Usui comes through the town, you must bring an offering if you wish to receive a healing. And you must exchange that offering at the time of the healing. Now, you may be thinking, what the heck does this have to do with you and I charging for our services in coaching? Well, here is the remarkable thing that Dr. Usui found hundreds of years ago. What he found was this. Once he asked for an offering at every single healing he provided, when he traveled back to the villages 6 to 12 months later, every single result that he had gotten with that client previously had stuck. The healings had actually lasted. The change had been permanent. Now you may say, well, Ben, what does this have to do with, how does this work? I'm getting an energy healing, but why does the energy healing work at a much deeper level, at a more permanent level, if I myself do some form of offering during that process? Well, here's what we know. There is something out there known as a cycle of reciprocation. And people in any form of negotiation understand the power and the certainty behind the cycle of reciprocation. And it works like this. Anytime someone does something for you, you get locked up in a cycle of reciprocation, which means you have to reciprocate the good deed in order to equilibrate the process so you go back to a state of balance. Now, if there is no reciprocation done, what happens is the person gets trapped inside a loop of reciprocation. Now, that loop of reciprocation can often show up, and this is really one of the worst things to know, one of the worst things I learned, is that if I do something free for another individual in the form of a healing or a coaching session, that individual will think day in, day out, night after night, how can I possibly repay Ben for his service? Now, I don't know about you, but you don't want to be up every single night trying to work out how to repay me for a free coaching session. You'd much rather be off in your life having a great life. So what we understand is that when people do not do a fair exchange at the point of the service being transferred, you begin to occupy space and time in the other person's mind due to this cycle of reciprocation. And that cycle of reciprocation often leads to a very specific type of emotion. And that emotion is that of guilt. So what we discovered through Dr. Usui's teachings and many other practices throughout the business world and any form of services being delivered is that if you don't charge for your services, you actually run the risk of putting your clients into a cycle of shame and guilt. Now, let's face it, it feels fantastic being generous. It feels fantastic giving things away. It feels really good. It does. It feels good to be generous. It feels good to give and give and give. It does. But we have to take time to understand and appreciate what actually happens to the person whom we are giving it to. So here's the thing. If there is not an exchange of an offering for your services, you run the risk of the cycle of reciprocation and you run the risk of creating guilt inside your clients. Once I understood this, I immediately started asking for an offering. Now, here's the thing. The very first Reiki healing I ever did was with a lady by the name of Jessica Faithful. And Jessica actually had to provide an offering. And she actually provided an offering of a small carton of milk and a packet of Tim Tams. Believe it or not, the very first payment I ever got for any form of coaching that I ever did in my life was milk and cookies. That's actually milk and cookies. Now, I moved up to the reciprocation of $20 a session. I moved up to the reciprocation of $40 a session. I moved up to the fair exchange of $50 a session, the fair exchange of $70, $80, $100 a session. And I made sure that the exchange took place inside that service being given. And lo and behold, people valued what I was doing. But not only did they value what I was doing, they stuck true to their word and they took the actions that actually resulted in their lives changing. So if you ever doubt yourself again about whether or not you can actually charge money, just think of Dr. Usui traveling through these villages, having the awakening, the undisputed epiphany, the enlightened moment of realization that if there is not fair exchange in the moment for any service being given, what ends up happening is we throw the other person out of balance and we trap space and time inside their mind and we put them into a cycle of reciprocation. So I hope this helps, because when I heard this, it changed everything about the way I thought about charging money. It was no longer about me receiving money. It was about me making sure that that person felt good about the service they were receiving, that that person had no guilt wrapped up around being given this gift of coaching, giving this gift of transformation, because they felt they had exchanged something fairly for it. So when it comes to receiving money, believe it or not, it is not about you. It is about how the client feels about that service being received. So make sure you do get some kind of offering. My suggestion is that offering is in the form of money, because it is very easy to track, it's very easy to understand, and it's a fair and clean way of exchanging services. So I hope this helps out. By the way, if it does, comment down below, share this video with your friends. If you know anybody out there struggling with charging for their gifts, charging for their services, charging for the love they share with the world and the impact that they make sure they watch this video, because as I said, this information transformed everything for me as a coach and allowed me to finally start charging money for my services. Now, if you like this information, we have, for the very first time ever in the history of our company, and for the first time in over 11 and a half years, I've been coaching for 11 and a half years. I've been a full-time coach for 11 and a half years of my life, well over a decade. And for the very first time, I've got all the information I've learned over that 11 and a half years, and I've packed it into a one-day event called How to Become a Highly Successful Coach. And I would love for you to come along to that event. We have an event running in a city near you coming up very, very soon. But here's the thing, spaces are absolutely limited to this event. event. The event is free for you to attend. However, if you don't book in soon, it is going to sell out. Why? Because it is the first time we've done this, and we've had people asking for this event for years, and the rego number is increasing by the minute. So if you want to come along, please register. Click the link below. If you want to register your friends, make sure you do that as well, because at this event, How to Become a Highly Successful Coach, you're going to learn some of the most incredible tools and techniques that allowed me not only to become fully booked in my first year of coaching, but go on to help thousands of coaches around the world to do exactly the same thing. So I look forward to seeing you at How to Become a Highly Successful, it's quite a mouthful, How to Become a Highly Successful Coach. If you've enjoyed this video, share it with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you there. Until we meet again, share your light, live your love, and do whatever it takes to be your own best friend. Bye for now.